Hello everybody, I hope everyone's having a good day. My name's Daniel, I talk about Essendon. Today we're going to be having a look at Archie Roberts. I think Archie Roberts is one of the favourite players of the Essendon fan base at the moment. He had a fantastic year last year. He's 20 years old, he's a defender of course. He was picked up at number 54 in the 2023 national draft. So he's a kind of a low investment really, although all players that are picked up in the national draft in some respect a high investment, but really on pick 54 you probably wouldn't have expected him to have the kind of breakout year that he had last year. He just played the 4 games in 2024 after being picked up in November 2023, but last year he played every single game for the year and was an outside chance. It was thought an outside chance to win the Rising Star. He didn't do that. He was nominated for it, of course. He didn't win it, but he had a really good year for us and was a staple in our backline. And it looks like he's going to be a 200-game player for us. So I think we're all pretty happy to have Archie Roberts on the list. We all kind of know his strengths. His ball use and decision-making is really good. He's able to find space as well. He gets about 75% of his possessions uncontested. That's not necessarily a bad thing. We have enough players on our list that can get the ball contested. Like Sam Durran, for example, 50% of his possessions are contested, 50% are uncontested. It's great to be the in and under player that's getting him, but you want the damage in some respects can be done by the uncontested possessions because they're the ones that are not under pressure where you can actually pinpoint opposition. If all your possessions are contested possessions, then you're going to lose, right? Because they're all under pressure. So Archie Roberts is able to actually get the ball out into space. So he's very good at reading the play, which is proven by the fact that he's a very good intercepting defender as well. He averages about 5 intercept possessions a game, which is, if not elite, it's very good. All right. He's actually ranks elite for possessions among defenders, averaging 24.5 possessions a game. So we do need a player like that. I kind of think he'd be suited to the midfield as well. You know, that type of player that is not just your in and under player. And look, he can work on that part of his game. He's still got some things he needs to get better at. But the fact that he can get the ball, 75% of his possessions are out there in the open, showing he has the ability to read the play and link up and create chains of possessions is a very good thing. You know, he's composed. He's quite a tenacious player. He seems to have a cool head under pressure. It reminds me a little bit of I don't really like making these comparisons, as I've said before, because when you compare someone to a good player, it sounds like you think they're going to be that player. I'm not suggesting he's going to be like this, but he reminds me a little bit of Scott Pendlebury in that he's quite composed under pressure and he's got a cool head and also the left foot, right? That's kind of I see some similarities there. He's not going to have that kind of career, you wouldn't have thought, but that's kind of how I see. I mean, Scott Pendlebury's that very, cool head. You kind of trust that he's going to make the right decision. He does have Archie Roberts does have some things he needs to work on for next year. The contested part of his game is not that strong. He only gets 25 possessions contested, but he loses 40% of one-on-one contests in the back line, which is a lot to lose. To put it in comparison, McGrath, playing a kind of similar position on the ground, only loses 9% of one-on-one contests in the back line. So his contested game was kind of identified as an area that needed some attention in his draft profile, particularly around stoppages. So he does need to improve that. I actually think he would be suited as his career develops moving into the midfield. I think someone of his slight build and is able to get pushed off the ball relatively easy, and he is able to get pushed off relatively easy. He only averages, I think, 2 and a bit tackles a game, which is, I mean, for some players that's fine, but if you're getting 24 possessions a game, you're around the ball a lot, you're kind of a quasi midfielder, even though he's kind of really playing off the half back line. You'd probably want to up that. Most of the other players on Essendon's list who average over 20 possessions a game average at least 4 tackles. All right, he averages the least, not the least on the list, but the least of all the players that I guess are what I would call heavy possession players. So it is something he needs to work on. Just looking at some of his numbers from last year, he was rated as our 18th best player. He averaged 24.5 disposals per game, 5.7 contested disposals, 1.2 clearances, 5.3 marks, and like I just said, the 2.3 tackles. Certainly a look at Archie Roberts, and I think he's going to be a strong part of the midfield for a long time. Not necessarily this year. I mean, someone joked in the comments of one of my other videos that we have so many players that can play off half back. I just did a video about Mason Redmond the other day, a couple of days ago, and then there was, you got McGrath down there and Jackson Pryor and others, and it seems like we've got a million half-back flankers. I think Archie Roberts would be a very good midfielder if he were to go in there full-time at some point. I don't necessarily think 2026 is the year for that. He's still quite young. But that outside mid, I mean, a genuine outside mid, right? He's not necessarily. You do need to do a little bit of both when you're a player, but really he's a genuine outside mid. We haven't quite got anyone like that. Maybe Nick Martin also gets about 75% of his possessions uncontested. He's not going to be there, of course, Nick Martin, but that's a good example of a player that can do damage on the outside. Archie Roberts is kind of the other player, the only player that really gets that high number of possessions out on the outside where he can do damage. And I think moving into the midfield, I'd like to see moving into the midfield a little bit next year, if not full-time. I'd like to see him at least push into there because I think that's eventually where his future will be at Essendon. So what are the key questions I've got for Archie Roberts? The first is, will his noted leadership qualities translate into perhaps an informal leadership position? I don't think he's going to be in the leadership group. The convention is for Essendon, you sort of got the captain, the vice-captain, two other kind of senior players, and the fifth player in the leadership group is kind of a younger player. That's been Nick Martin, who probably will drop out of it this year just because he's not going to be playing. So can he be in a formal position in the leadership group? Even if he's not, I kind of see him as a potential leader anyway, and I'd like to see him at least develop, at least informally, into a leader down there in the back line, because the first thing he ticks off is that he plays every week, right? That's what you need, and you can't say that about a lot of the other players in the Essendon backline. Second question, will he transition into a midfield role or will he remain off half-back? So I'd like to see him push into the midfield 30% of the time. I just think it's where he will eventually land at the Bombers, but not quite yet. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the club do see him pushing more into there this year. We do have a lot of options down there in the back line, and I think someone of his potential, to maximise your potential, someone like Archie Roberts, who does have a lot of potential, to maximise it, I think it'd be great to see him go into the midfield. So can he transition into the midfield or will he remain off half-back? The third question I've got of Archie Roberts is, has he significantly increased his or improved his contested game and his strength in the off-season? Some of the highlights from him at training look pretty impressive. He looks like he's having a really, really good off-season at the moment. He looks really fit. He looks really determined. And you can only go by what you see, but he looks really good. But that's one area. If he can develop a good contested game, he'll be an elite player. Now, that remains to be seen. Not everybody can just develop a contested game like it's like snap your finger, bang. You just, some players you've either got it or you haven't, or you really need to work on it. Sometimes it's not as natural for some players as others. But if he can develop a contested game and up his tackle count to maybe 4 a game from the current 2, then he's going to be fantastic. Now, that might be a couple more pre-seasons in the gym before he can fully, reach his potential and all of that. But to me, that's a big one. Has he, can he improve enough in the off-season, improve his contested game and his strength so that he can improve on that stat of losing 40% of one-on-one contests? That needs to come down to about 20%. 40% is too high. So 40% sounds good. You think, 60% you're winning. But a lot of those contests are halved. All right, so you want it significantly down in the 20s, because about a large, probably 50, 60, 70% of these contests are deemed there's no winner. It's like a 50-50 contest. So, losing 40% of one-on-one contests is something he does need to get better at. So what does everybody think of Archie Roberts? Do you agree with my assessment that he should be pushing more into the midfield? If not next year, then in the future? Is there anything I've missed? What are your expectations of him going into the 2026 season? Right, well, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. It always helps the YouTube algorithm when you can do that. And if you can leave a comment and a like as well. That's it. Have a great day, everybody. And as always, go Bombers!
The best of the Bomber boys are flying high. Australia.